Welcome to the Fort Iron Podcast. We're here to help men understand their biblical roles, pursue Christ with unwavering courage in every aspect of their lives. Welcome to the Fort.
All right, welcome to the Fort, guys. I'm here this morning, and this is the first time I've actually hosted one, and so I'm a little nervous, but also extremely excited because of the man I get to sit beside right now. So this is May, and while we're recording this, I think it's going to come out 1st of June, but while we're recording this is actually National Foster Care Month, and so tell you a little short story how we kind of met and got to know each other a little bit better. I'd heard about Andrew and Soaring Wings here. Didn't really know a whole lot about them. For those who know our story, it'd be 3 years ago this June, we lost Kason. And you were a chaplain, is that correct? For Faulkner County here.
One of the co-chaplains?
Yep. And so he actually showed up there at that night and got to just help support us in that time. So from there, it just kind of hit. And knowing we didn't plan to foster, we didn't plan to adopt. And then finding out more about what you do here, it kind of just built off of that and just the love for what you do here. And then talking to others who are doing it conventionally versus which I would consider is more of the Christian based, more of a not traditional. You get no state funding.
No.
Yep. And so,
it's we don't depend on state funding, state or federal funding, and we're completely debt free as well. And what we knew all along is what we're seeing, and that is that God's people can take care of God's kids. And that's exactly what's going on.
Yep. So tell us how did all this come about?
So the story of Soaring Wings, it all started back in, I guess it was around 1998, whenever I was a senior at UCA. I had gotten an internship locally with an organization called Community Service Inc. I tell people that I worked with community service. I didn't do community service. And so I worked with children and their families. We're talking kiddos that got into various types of trouble, and I worked with them on electronic monitors. I was in and out of the courts with them. I was in and out of the homes, in and out of the schools, and so that gave me a big picture of where the kids were coming from, the types of environments that they were coming from. And, during that time, God really began to work on my heart about starting a children's home here in the state of Arkansas, because I knew that our home state needed one. However, we serve children from all over. I mean, we're open to serve children from whatever state they need to come from. If we have the openings and we can serve them, that's what we're going to do.
Good deal. So right now you have 4 homes here?
Yes.
Plus we are actually sitting in, what's this called?
This is just a guest cabin that we have where, sometimes, churches will host, they'll want to do like women's retreats or men's retreats, or pastors or church staff need a place to get away, or missionaries need a place to stay. Another thing that we use it for is for guests that come to visit Soaring Wings.
Okay. So that's what this house is for, and then like I said, you have 4 foster.
Yes, we have 2 homes for girls, we have 1 for boys, and that's school-age kiddos. And then we have 1 home that's a preschool-age home, so from birth all the way up to just before they start kindergarten.
Awesome. So obviously when you pull into the ranch, how many acres you got here?
There's 195 acres.
So there's a little room to grow.
A little room to grow.
A little bit. Just it might be tight, but a little bit.
Absolutely.
A little sarcasm.
And it's, having a campus this size, it's by design whenever we started, because we wanted children to come and experience the peace that an outdoor place like this, a big, wide, open place like this, where they can experience wildlife and fishing and paddle boating and biking and not have to worry about things.
Yeah. So, so what's the plan for the future? You pull in here, I see something started.
Yes. So the next project that we have, we're actually working on building our Welcome Learning Counseling Center. And normally we have all the funds in place to begin construct or to complete construction before we start. But with this building, it's actually the largest building that we're going to have on this campus, most likely, and it will house a pavilion. It will house a place where we can do gatherings and have events. It will have our office space, and most importantly, it will have a learning center, so we can help children from birth all the way up to 12 years old. We're going to have our preschool there. And then we're also going to have, we'll expand our already strong tutoring program to help our kids get caught up academically. And then we'll also have a counseling center where we can expand our counseling that we're offering to children and families, along with our social work that we do. And we also see interns in the future where we can invest in interns and help them to hopefully want to go out and
create another. Yes,
what we're doing.
Replicate. Mm-hmm. Okay. Throw you on the spot real quick, how many kids have come through here? Do you know?
Well, as best as we can, I wish we would have kept better records on this, but as best as we can tell, it is north of 300 and south of 350. So
3 to 350 so far.
Yeah, so probably around 350.
And that was since the first house was built, what did you say, 15 years ago? Probably?
So we opened our doors on August the 1st of 2007.
Yeah.
And so that's when we welcomed our first sibling group in.
Yeah.
It's two brothers and a sister.
So a lot of lives have been touched.
Absolutely.
So,
yes.
So obviously, this being Foster Care Month and stuff, we're just going to talk a little bit about, what can we do as Christians to help out? I mean, obviously, we can support places like this. Financially, prayer is a big thing.
Yes.
But what are some things that you can see people in other places, because this is going to go out, obviously, around the United States and around the world, but this is going to be worldwide. How can we help? How can we get involved?
It is a huge need nationwide, and there's so many things that individuals and churches and other organizations can do to help foster families. The truth is everybody is not meant to be a foster parent. As much as I would love for that to be the case, the truth is that is not the case. And I have heard some very misleading things that comes from some very well-meaning organizations. Basically you just need to have an open heart, an open home, and there you go. That's not necessarily true. It is a true calling. It is a special calling to be a foster home or to be a house parent at an organization like Soaring Wings. So there's that aspect of it. If that's your calling, pursue it with everything that you have. But if that's not your calling, there's so many things that you can do to support those people. One, like you said, prayer. And I know in Christian circles we use that a lot. And I don't think we fully fathom what prayer can do a lot of times. Soaring Wings was built on prayer. I can go to say that I'll interrupt you, but spiritual warfare is got to be really big here. It is real. And anytime, we've seen it. Anytime, we get ready to see something big happen out here, whether it's opening the doors for the first time or whether it's opening a new home, we totally anticipate spiritual warfare going on while we're doing the Welcome Learning Counseling Center. It's just, it is. And that is what you have to be prepared for. If you are going to be in foster care, you've got to be prepared for that, because Satan has the children and the families where he wants them prior to you getting to them. And I tell our staff, Satan's got them where he wants them before they come through the gate here. And once they come through our gate, that's when the warfare is really going to begin, because they're exposed to the truth. They're given the opportunity to have that personal relationship with Christ, not just children, but the families as well. And Satan does not want to see entire families brought back together that's covered under his blood. Right. Satan does not want to see that.
So a lot of people, there's a misconception too that foster care is adoption.
No.
And
no.
It's not. And so the other second thing that I think a lot of people misunderstand is, well, then I don't want to get involved because I'm going to get too attached to these kids and stuff like that. But in reality, that's exactly what we're supposed to be doing.
Well,
is fill that gap.
I think it's, quite honestly, I've heard that comment a lot, and I'm just going to be truthful about it. I feel like that's a selfish way of looking at things.
Amen.
The truth is it is emotional, and yes, you are putting yourself out there, and you are going to get attached. The hope is that you get attached, because where there is an attachment in working with children and with these families, there's going to be good, strong, solid relationships built. And what we see is that children and families stay in touch with us a lot whenever they leave. And so that's what we want. We want them to understand just how much we do love them, and that comes across whenever we're caring for them, and we do show that we're getting close to them. So don't be selfish about it. Get over yourself and step up, and do something uncomfortable. And so you were talking about supporting people in foster care, how to help in foster care. Well, with people that are doing foster care, out in the community, we need to see our churches step up and get behind people. Things like helping them maybe to run errands. These are going to seem like small things, but they're huge for foster families. Like helping them run errands, maybe helping taking kids to appointments, maybe doing some frozen meals for them so that they can take them out in the morning and pop them in the oven in the evening after they're thawed out. Things like coming to help maintain a home, help clean a house, help do stuff outside. Another thing is with our churches, to learn more about where these kiddos are coming from, and to learn more about how to minister to them. That's another thing. For Soaring Wings, some of those things are things that we need, such as we got people in churches that help us sometimes with the frozen meals. We've got people that I know that are praying every day for Soaring Wings. I've got prayer warriors that I know. I don't have to give them details. They don't need all the details, but I can just give them a text or give them a call and say, "Hey, I really need your prayer. At this time, we need your prayer." Sometimes we'll need what we call extended families out here. Extended families are just simply an extension of our ranch family. And before a child starts to go back to their parents, sometimes there's a window where that parent is getting some things straight in their life. And so we might need a family to open up their home one weekend a month for a short period of time to be able to help. And then there's different volunteer opportunities, service projects, and things like that can be done. Certainly financially, I have people ask me, "Hey, what should I consider doing on a monthly basis?" And I'm like, that is not for me to tell you. That is between you and God. And really, what I encourage people to do is do what you can comfortably. Do what you can where you know you can do it consistently, if that's possible. And then, speaking opportunities, providing speaking opportunities for people like me to come and share the vision of the places like Soaring Wings, so that we can get people engaged.
So you put all that, all those cumulative things together. You see a kid in foster care, and they're watching these pieces of this puzzle all come together, and they're not only seeing a family that's willing to pour their hearts and souls into them, and knowing that it's the full intent for them to walk away, and there's not this adoption or this intent, that we're doing it for. It's just the fact that we love the kids, and the way God wants us to. And I heard somebody say it one time. They said, "There's no greater need for that foster care kid than to know that a family loves them so much that they're crying. It breaks their heart."
That's right.
To watch them walk out the door.
Yes.
Because they know that they have truly been loved.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and part of that, part of that love that is shown to children is, you got your church family, you got your friends that wrap around them, and I mean, I want to say not even, but especially having friends and family and church friends come to special events like ball games and concerts and track meets and all those kind of things to support that kid. Unreal what it does to them from an emotional standpoint. It really helps them. It helps their self-esteem. It helps them to just know that they got not only one family, but they got a huge group of people that are in their corner.
Absolutely. And back to what you were saying about, kind of bouncing back and forth a little bit, but the whole end goal of this is reunification with families. And with that said, with my story, I mean, we did not intend to adopt. It wasn't even on the table. It was we took Kason in as a favor just to buy time for them to get things kind of straight. Unfortunately, that didn't happen. But to this day, I still do have a relationship with both of those parents. And I hope they know how much I did love. I think they do. How much we love Kason.
Yes.
And it's about those bonds. It's about Jesus being represented in our lives and them to see Jesus through us. Yeah. And I hope that's the case for Kason's biological parents. And I would hope that to be the case for all foster care parents.
So, I'll share with you how we got to where we are today as far as what we do. We had originally started off working mostly with DCFS. The department, for those of you who don't know what that means, it's the Department of Children and Family Services. And over time, we realized that we needed to try to work with these families before they actually got into that system. And sometimes that system can be a black hole for these families because they don't have the kind of supports that a place like Soaring Wings and that people that are listening to this podcast will provide. Right. And so what we realized over time is if we can get to these families before they actually need to go into, the children would have to go into foster care, then that's when we have a chance at a big success as far as reunification with these families. And as we're interviewing them, as we're going through the intake process with them, most of the time the question is asked, well, hey, how much is this gonna cost? And that's when we look at them and we say, nothing. It's not going to cost you anything. And it's usually followed up with either how or why. And we say, well, the way that we do this is because God has a lot of people that are getting behind and that are behind Soaring Wings. That provides the opportunity, for your family. And God God loves us, and He loves you. He called us specifically to help your family. And usually there's tears that are involved in that because they are not used to having somebody do something like that just because they love them. And so out of the gate, what's really cool is that you're able to show that love. We're able to show that love out of the gate when we were doing the intake and we're telling them that.
It's awesome. Okay. I'm going to throw a few statistics out real quick. We're going to touch a lot more on this on the next podcast. We've got one more to do. There's 3 of us that have adopted within Fort Iron. And are in the process even.
In the process.
So approximately over 400,000 kids in the United States are in the foster care system. I've heard that approximately 50% of the kids, and I don't know if maybe it's something you run across. It says 50% of the kids in foster care, their parents had been in foster care at one point or another.
Yeah, I think that number is probably quite a bit higher than 50%.
Yep.
It's very common. Matter of fact, I just had a conversation this week with a parent that we're working with, and I asked about the background, and foster care.
And get into a system. That's
and
why.
The thing is they weren't everybody. That's the deal. It's going to continue. It's not rocket science, and it's not anything earth-shattering, to make this kind of statement. But it's not going to change until somebody intervenes and teaches them a different way. It's just not going to change.
That's where I was going to go with that. They're in a system that until they find God, they find Jesus, they see the love of other Christians.
Absolutely.
It's not going to break the cycle.
Absolutely. It's not going to break the cycle. And the other thing is and this may sound taboo, to some people, but not only are we bringing them to Christ, before we actually get to that point to being able to see the children and the families have that relationship with Christ, what we do is we meet their immediate needs, and then we go from there, and we start meeting need after need after need. And ultimately what that does is that gives us the opportunity to share Christ with them. And I think that in the church, for far too long, counseling has been a taboo thing. It's all I need is Jesus. All I need is the Bible. Those two are all I need to get through this. And the truth is, hey, yeah, you need Jesus, you need His Word. But who do you think made these counselors? Gave them the makeup that they have and the ability that they have to be able to help them. And let me tell you, licensed professional counselors can approach it from a Christian worldview too. And I think that's a misunderstanding that a lot of people in the church have had all these years as well. And so, the way that we do it here is very similar to how Jesus did it back in His day. We meet them where they are. We begin to take care of their immediate needs so that we can ultimately meet their spiritual needs. And what is really cool is to see a kid like, we got a 16-year-old that's here right now. 2 years ago, he came to Soaring Wings. As we were interviewing him and going through the intake process, he shared with us, he said, I like everything that I see out here except for one thing. And he said, I'm an atheist. I don't believe like y'all believe. And that's when we looked at him and I said, that's okay, buddy. I said, as long as you're willing to go to church with the family during the week, and as long as you're willing just to sit, just don't disturb while the family devotion is going on. If you're willing to do that, we're fine with you coming. So this kid, he comes and he's here about 6 months, and what do you think happened? He had been listening for 6 months, and God did the rest. God saved that kid. And so, I look at that, and it's like the next, a lot of times the next step is we're able to share with the parent what happened with the kid. Childlike faith. What about you? And so for us, it's come full circle, because in the past when we were working with the department, we did not have as much access to the families. But the model that we have now, we're working directly with the families. And so now we're able to have the opportunity to see entire families come to know Christ, and to give them, the help that they need.
There's another saying that nobody really cares how much you know until they know how much you care.
That's exactly
true. And I've kept that in my mind so long. It's one of my favorites to go back to. There are approximately 380,000 churches in America. Mm-hmm. And we're a little over 400,000 kids in foster care. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't equate to one per family, one per person. Church. One per church, and this problem's solved, and then the world sees what the Christians are doing.
And the truth is that we don't need the government to step up for these families. If the church was doing the job, and I know I sound like I'm harping on church, but hey, I've grown up in church. My dad was a pastor. I've seen what doesn't happen.
Yeah, I won't hold that against you. If you don't hold it against me, our pastor sometimes.
I've seen what doesn't happen, in churches, and the truth is that God's people can take care of God's kids and these families and meet that need. And I think that I know that we have it wrong. I know that it's wrong right now, because in essence, we're dependent upon the government to take care of most of these families versus us stepping up and doing it. I mean, you just think about it. 2 or 3 kids per church.
Yeah.
Throughout the U.S. And again, we're not talking all of them are going to adopt.
No,
we're talking about stepping up and meeting these needs.
And I would even venture to say that should not be the goal, because if we're Great Commission, right? How do you plant seeds? What greater way to plant seeds than to take someone's children while they are in a bad situation, bad time in their life?
Yes.
Love on them where they couldn't be doing that right then, and then when you can unify them back, what better way to plant a seed than that?
Yeah, and the thing is I've watched parents go from the guilt and the shame to once they have that relationship with Christ and the kid is back with them, or children are back with them, of having that confidence and understanding what grace really means. They truly understand. They get that, what grace means. And before they leave here with their children, I typically will look at the parent or parents and say, do not fall prey to guilt or shame. You do not need that. You do not have to live that way. Because the truth is God brought your child here and you here. And He has saved you. He has given you a different life. And you've got nothing. You've got nothing to be ashamed of. So don't carry that. Don't carry that guilt and don't carry that shame.
Absolutely.
And we also, I think another thing that's different from us versus how the typical foster care system is going to work is after they leave here, we stay in touch with them. We continue to provide parenting, coaching for them. We continue to provide counseling for them as they need it. And they know, I also let them know, hey, if you ever get me out, get in a bind in the future, and if your kiddo needs a place to come, we will make room. Even if we're full, we will figure it out and we will make room, because we don't want them having to go somewhere or to live with somebody that they're not already familiar with.
So going back to a little bit of what we're talking about, we're going to slowly start closing this out. But what can we all do? Well, we're not all going to open up our houses and be foster care parents. It's something my wife and I have actually talked about doing again. I think we're 3 years, like I said, into the case, and I think that maybe here in the next coming year or so, we're talking about it. I know Brian's really serious about it, but what we are all called to do is something. I mean, it's scriptural. I mean, how many times did Jesus talk about taking care of the widows and orphans, right? But we are all called to it. And I've heard people say, well, I'll pray about it and see if I need it. No. All you have to do is open up God's Word.
That's right.
And it tells you to do something. Now, what that looks like, ask God. You can pray about that. But you don't need to pray about if you should be involved.
That's right.
Pray about how you can be involved. In whatever way that looks. It can be financially, it can be through, and pardon if I'm a little brunt here. Prayer we can all do, so don't count that as your contribution.
Right.
Pray, but what else can you do?
Right.
It's not about what you think you can do. It's about what God has called us to do.
That's right.
And so that's the big picture of it. And with us here at Fort Iron, one of our goals is in foster care. Wouldn't be. I mean, I think we always have a need for foster care, but there wouldn't be as big a need for foster care if we had men stepping up as fathers, as leading their families, and not allowing this huge problem to be what it is right now.
That's right. We work a lot. I would say the brunt of who we're working with are single moms.
Yeah. And so that is our goal here at Fort Iron, is to pour into men to get them to step up into that leadership and into the accountability, be accountable for what God's put us as leaders in our homes. So there are plenty of resources on all of our Facebook page, our YouTube. You can check out all that stuff. But as we close here, is there any other closing comments that you would have on foster care?
No, just that I agree with what you're saying, that everybody has something that they can do. Because really, when you're looking at it as the ministry that it is, it goes back to the Great Commission.
It does.
You're out there winning souls.
Sure.
And so I think that everybody has something that they can do to help win that child or that family, the parents, to Christ. So, when you look at it that way, it's not even just about kids.
No.
It's a kingdom thing. That's what it is.
Amen.
It's the Great Commission. That's what it is.
Absolutely what it is.
You're going out and you're finding these lost families, and you get the opportunity. If you stick with it long enough, you're going to get the opportunity to not only share your faith with them, but you're going to get the opportunity to disciple them.
And as we're closing up, one thing that I meant to mention earlier, it's tough. Your job, I know, is tough emotionally.
It can be.
But it's also probably the most rewarding thing you could have ever went into or put yourself out to do. So get involved in any way. And it's tough. These kids come from a broken home.
I tell people often, we've got some videos out there that show some of the successes that we've seen. But let me tell you, there's a lot that of families that when we were done, I didn't really feel like we won. We did impact them, but we didn't get where I wanted to be, with them. It's messy. I mean, doing what we do is very messy. And when you think about it, whatever you're doing as far as getting out there and fulfilling the Great Commission, it's messy. There's not it fits in this box and it's clean and it's sterile. No, we're dealing with messy lives, and we're dealing with generational issues that need to be cleaned up. And so don't be afraid. Just accept it and embrace it. That what I'm about to do is it's going to be emotional. It's going to be messy. It's going to get me out of my comfort zone. And when you look at it, what the disciples did, I think it pretty much fits that bill. So they weren't comfortable, So who are we to think that, we're just going to pick something that we can be comfortable with?
Yeah. God's clear what He wants us to do, pick up that cross daily.
And there's days, I was just telling some of our staff just this week that, there's days I leave here with way more questions than I have answers for, as far as the cases that we're working with on any given day. And there's days, honestly, that I leave here somewhat depressed, because of where I see, maybe parents going. But, one of the counselors that we have, she uses the phrase with clients, feelings aren't facts. And so I have to remind myself of that. It's like, hey, we're in the middle of this, and God, it's up to God to make the change, for these people. And the fact is that we can't do anything about it. All that we can be are the seed planters. It's just like whenever we were at Big Oak Ranch back in the day, I remember John Kroll talking about, he had a statement that he would make. We can't take the credit for those that make it. We can't take the blame for those who don't, because we're just called to be seed planters. And really, when you think about it like that, it puts it into perspective. Yeah. It's up to God to do whatever He's going to do, with the seed that has been planted. And just because you're in a messy situation trying to help people and it feels hopeless, that's not a fact. That's not a fact, because he's not done with those people. Even if they leave, from your care, and it doesn't feel like, it doesn't appear to be a success. You don't know what's going to happen in the future with the seeds that you have planted in their heart and in their minds.
Yep. There's absolutely no way we're going to know until we get to heaven.
That is exactly right.
What the impact of what God used us is not anything we've done. It's what God's allowed us to be a part of.
Yes.
But there's no way to know until we get there. Of what 100 years or 1,000 years from now, what one little thing could do. Mm-hmm. All right. So as we wrap this up, we're going to have a link to y'all's website, Facebook page, and stuff down in this podcast description. I thank you so much for not only being here today, but being a part of my life.
Same here, man. So, I appreciate you too, and I appreciate what Fort Iron does. Greatly needed. It's like I said, we need men to step up more than we have ever needed men to step up.
Yes, absolutely. All right, so go check us out, Facebook, YouTube, all those other places that Cody normally rattles off really quick and good, but I'm not. And thank you for coming and hanging out at the fort once again.